Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Awakener podcast. It's great to be with you today. We got a great show for you today. So my apologies for being away for a couple of weeks. I just needed to take a mental break. With all the stuff going on in Canada, the election and all the nonsense, and just needed to kind of step back. Obviously, for my long-term listeners, you know that once in a blue moon, I do take a step back and I kind of rethink and I come up with the same answer. We are headed to something really amazing. That is, the truth is going to come out and the entire thing is going to be exposed. And the reason why people or our government is acting in the way they are is because of this truth. And our enemies are acting the same way because of this truth. It's a beautiful time to be alive. But first, you need to go to theawakener.ca. Theawakener.ca is the best resource for you to kind of understand what is going on. You can understand what the basis of this podcast is. The basis of this podcast is you are part of the matrix, which means you are part of a war, a hidden war for control of this planet between two imperialistic forces. And when you pull it all back and you kind of understand all the moves and counter moves, you can really see exactly what is happening. I have the Insider with me. Insider, you look depressed today.
I'm not depressed. I'm accepting the election results.
I'm going to say one thing, okay? So it doesn't matter who wins or who won that election. As you know, Carney won that election, apparently. It doesn't matter because the USA is going to annex Canada in war. If you listen to this podcast, I told you this, how many years ago now? 6, 7 years ago. The reason why is that there is going to be a war between Russia, China, and the United States of America, and they don't care about our lumber. They don't care about buying anything of us up. They need our territory for what? To protect us in the Western world. It's really interesting, actually, to see liberals kind of talk about it. Everyone still thinks, they're pro-Ukraine. This thing will never end. They want America to commit troops to Ukraine to fight Russia. Well, what is the consequence of fighting Russia in a direct war? Well, there might be a world war. And do you think us as Canadian citizens should allow America to control our Arctic to protect us in this war that everybody so badly wants? If your answer is no, well, then why do you want a war with Ukraine? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, Insider, tell me your latest thoughts. I know you look like you're going to tear up. Tell me your latest thoughts. Why are you so depressed?
Because I think Canada's gone and we probably won't have
Canada
another
has
election.
been gone for a long time.
True.
We voted ourselves into communism in 2015.
Yep.
And we told you on this podcast, nothing is going to change. Now, remember how we talked about this guy, Mark Carney, and you were onto him kind of the first?
Yep.
So it's really interesting if you look at the time frames. If you remember that election that they lost, is it St. Paul? Well, what area was that in Toronto where they
Toronto,
lost?
St. Paul's, and
when
they won it
when
back
did they,
again.
When did they lose it?
There was a by-election a year ago.
Okay, and they lost it, right? When was that? Like July?
The Liberals lost. I forgot what month, but yeah, roughly around then.
And what happened right after that happened? Carney comes into office because they knew they were going to lose.
Yep.
And here comes Mark Carney because Justin Trudeau is extremely unpopular and he's this new guy and the new face, and you can just see it now. If you're awake, you can see how the whole media complex just told you that Mark Carney was just going to win. It was going to be so awesome and he's going to win a majority. No, he's going to win a super majority. He didn't win any of those things. He did win a minority government, as you know, but I tell you right now that internally they are ticked off that they didn't win a majority government. What's the latest in the election? In Toronto, it looked like they swept everything, the Liberals.
So Toronto, they swept it. Of course, they're going to in the 416. The NDP, or Socialist Party, lost a lot of seats and doesn't even have official party status.
Right.
A lot of those seats flipped over to the Liberals. And the crazy thing is, this is very much like the U.S. election in 2020. The Conservatives had the highest vote count since 1988.
What did Poilievre get, like 8.3 million votes?
A huge number of votes, 144 seats, but it wasn't enough to beat Carney. And so this is kind of very reminiscent of the 2020 U.S. election.
The election that was stolen, right?
There you go.
Yeah, and this election was stolen. I'll tell you why. Because there is no friggin' way that Mark Carney got how many votes? There is no way that Mark Carney got that many votes. I'll tell you why. Even half the population that voted for NDP ditched them. There's still not enough votes to make it up. Justin Trudeau, what did he get in 2021? He got 5.5 million votes. Okay, so you add another 1.5 million of NDP voters who are so scared of Trump, the numbers still don't make sense. The numbers don't make sense whatsoever. The fact that many people in a country of 40 million people, that many people voted, first of all. It's an anomaly. Second of all, there's no way that many people voted for Liberal. It's impossible. And Polyev did so well. I'm so proud of the guy for how he did. I think he polled really, really well. I'm just, unfortunately, I don't believe anything that it comes to our election. And I haven't for quite some time, to be frank with you. I haven't believed in this electoral system in Canada since 2015, when they ousted Harper from office. And that's really my point of view, when Canada decided to vote itself into communism, and we're never going to be free with it. What are your thoughts personally?
Well, the other point that I want to make is there was a huge voter turnout for the advanced voting polls, like 7 million votes. Right. It was record breaking. The first day was record breaking, over 2 million. The 4 days of advanced voting were record breaking. So if you're telling me that there's a record breaking voter turnout, that means it's a change election. If you're having low voter turnout, it means it's a status quo election. Right. So what happened? You had huge voter turnout, and yet it's the same status quo election where the Liberals took a minority. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Yeah. Anyways, listen, it's not going to matter who wins in Canada, only because the United States of America is going to need Canada's territory. The eventuality of what is going to be released, and we've been talking about it and why our government is acting a certain way, is the truth. Obviously, investigations that's centered around Hunter Biden, as you know, that he was given a pardon by his father. Obviously, Joe Biden has given everybody a pardon but himself. But Joe Biden's relationship, obviously, with the U.S. government and foreign nations, and obviously Ukraine, working for, as we've told you before, Russia and China. Yes, the entire thing is fake. Zelensky is a front to bring the U.S. to war. On 3 fronts. If you look up Zelensky and all his friends used to work for Viktor Yankovich and the Russians. John Podesta, the Democrat Party, they used to work for Viktor Yankovich. Ukraine is a fake front. And people are going to understand the relationship our government has with money laundering, wasting our tax dollars, and kind of being on a military path that benefits Russia and China instead of doing things to benefit us. And this is why they're acting the way they're acting. Their control they're freaking out, and they know that their time is near, which means they're going to be voted out, and people are going to see the truth, and people say we're done, and they're doing whatever they can to control. Now, my thoughts to you, Insider, is this: you were talking to me about the next election that's going to happen.
Which I don't think is going to happen.
Which you don't think is going to happen. The thing is, with the Liberal parties, you have to understand this: they're running out of tricks. So they pulled a fast one here. Okay, we were onto this fast one. Actually, the Insider was onto it more clearly than I was. We were into this guy called Mark Carney. Mark Carney becomes the economic advisor, and obviously everyone's so motivated to vote. And oh my goodness, he's the only one that's going to help Canada. They don't have anything after this. They don't have another person who's going to come in. They're going to pull the same stunt again. They don't. This is their last chance. So if you think that this is kind of nefarious, what they're doing, just wait until the next election. Now, what are your thoughts on Carney's agenda and what he's going to do? I can see you. I can see you shedding another tear.
Carney. We know his bag of tricks. We know his agenda. It's the WF agenda. It's the Agenda 2030. It's the UN Agenda 2030. So I think he's going to, again, with taxation, starvation, killing the economy, nothing is going to change. Remember, he has 5 years, not 4 years in this mandate, as all Canadian prime ministers do, whether a minority or majority, as long as the government doesn't fall. Right. And in his case, it won't. He's only 3 seats short of a majority.
Well, you got Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May. You got the NDP, even though we got rid of Jagmeet Singh, but the NDP are radical socialists. So they're going to be in line with him. He's going to continue this whole thing to destroy and dismantle Canada's economy. And his 5 years falls right into 2030, the year 2030, which is the key year for UN Agenda 2030, where they want to bring in that globalist vision of theirs.
But everyone's talking about this UN Agenda 2030. And like, if you listen to, like, is it David Icke? If you listen If you listen to David Icke and you talk about all this UN agenda, like, okay, cool, but they have to do a bunch of things to enact this agenda. The socialists, they don't want to just modify Canadian laws. They don't want to just modify United States laws. They want to literally scrap them. They're just pushing people to the point where they can accept the scrapping. And obviously something major has to happen to usher in new agenda, new laws, and new regulations, such as war.
Which we almost had with COVID.
Well, exactly. So we're approaching war. There's actually a covert war on the United States of America. I expect Carney's actually agenda to be much, much worse. Carney's agenda is going to be morphing Canada into hatred for Donald Trump, and it's going to be morphing Canada into the perspective of war against the United States of America.
I agree totally. And morphing Canada even further into the pockets of China.
Now, the thing is, a lot of the population here in Canada is not going to accept that whatsoever, but the Liberal Party of Canada will go this route. Why will they go this route? Because we're at the point of revolution, ladies and gentlemen. Soros and his groups, the European Union, why do they all want this war with Russia? Why do they want to back Zelensky, send a bunch of troops there? Why do they want to instigate this world war? It's because they want to do this world war and they want to have their socialist Soviet revolution where they can grab global control. They all need this war to happen. They've been working to bury the Western world, to have this war, this revolution, and to change our laws, and they're at the cusp of doing it. This is why I full on expect that Carney and these people, our government, are going to take a more radical approach. Net censorship, which means I don't know how much longer this podcast is going to be on the air, because this podcast is talking about their agenda and what they're doing. I expect net social scores. I said censorship already, right? I would expect them to come after every single firearm under any excuse possible.
Firearms for sure. And the other thing that he's been very strong about was CBDC, central bank digital currency. And that's how you have the control mechanism.
There you go. So everything Justin Trudeau was supposed to accomplish on his term.
But he was too stupid.
Mark Carney is here to save the day for the communists. And you can see it, right?
And he's too cunning.
Trudeau gets in power. How did Trudeau get in power? Well, we told you he was put in power because the globalists and the Chinese and Biden and Obama orchestrated the coup d'etat in Canada. And they put him in there. Right. Now, he started his agenda and he started to pass all these things. He was doing very, very slowly, tiptoe. And then all of a sudden he became unpopular. And he ran out of time to pass the agenda. He ran out of time to pass all these things. But don't worry, because the entire sham of the Liberal Party is here to save the day for the communists. And we have this wonderful person called Mark Carney to do it for us. Mark Carney is here to deliver for the communists the agenda on Canada, which eventually would lead to, obviously, the UN 2030. We're just not there yet. A bunch of things have to happen before. But we're going to talk about the mechanism of war and what's happening to kind of instigate this in the next show. We're going to see you there.